Good evening. We want to welcome everybody to City Hall. We want to thank the members of Kansas Department of Transportation coming over to talk to us about their recommendation and our feelings about their recommendation on Castle at K-10. We want to thank the members of the County Commission to coming to City Hall. Actually, I guess we're replacing the meeting that you would have had tomorrow evening so that we can have a general discussion by both bodies. As I had told a couple members of the public, at this point, this is not a public hearing, and that, but if the group, and I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody because I don't think that would have been quite right, but if we do want to accept public comment as a group, we can do that if we so choose, because I do know that there are people here that would like to speak if possible. What's going to happen is KDOT is going to come up and they are going to give a short presentation, 5 to 10 minutes, about their recommendation. We'll ask all the questions that we want, and then we'll just kind of throw it out and discuss it. So again, we want to thank everybody for coming and everybody making changes in their schedule, and we'll go to town, and Ryan, you're going to take over.
So this is only about the Castle.
This is only about the Castle
Correct.
and K-10 connection.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Barrett. I'm the KDOT project manager for the K-10 West Leg SLT project. I just wanted to thank you all for arranging your schedule so you can meet with us this evening. We will be talking about the near-term recommended alternative at the K-10 and East 1200 Road intersection today. The project team has prepared a brief presentation that walks through a recap of our process, engineering analysis highlights, how we arrived at the recommended alternatives, and the next steps. So as a reminder, the long-term goal of the K-10 West Leg is to improve the roadway to a 4-lane access-controlled freeway consistent with the East Leg SLT to address safety, operations, and access as traffic continues to grow. In doing so, direct access to and from K-10 at the intersection with East 1200 Road will be closed, and the connection to County Road 458 will ultimately be provided via an extension of Wakarusa Drive, which will be the responsibility of Douglas County and the city. We are here today to talk about the near-term alternative recommendation for the K-10 and East 1200 Road intersection and gather feedback from both the city and county commissions about our recommendation. The East Leg SLT will open this fall. It's estimated that traffic will more than double on the West Leg, which creates the safety concern for the K-10 and East 1200 Road intersection. Earlier this year, KDOT, we recommended closing the intersection. But after providing this recommendation, the public expressed concern about a near-term closure, especially with no firm schedule in place for upgrading the West Leg to 4 lanes. Based on the concern at the MPO meeting in February and subsequent city and county commission meetings in March, KDOT revisited and further evaluated these near-term solutions to address the safety, operations, and access located at this intersection. Project team met with various stakeholders and property owners to discuss concerns, understand issues, and explain concerns that KDOT has with this intersection as traffic volumes increase due to the East Leg opening up. 4 near-term alternatives were evaluated. An engineering, safety, and operations analysis was conducted, and those alternatives were presented at a public open house on June 1st. An online survey was also conducted to gather additional feedback from the public. Now I'm going to turn it over to Greg Weatherd from HNTB to present the additional details on the analysis and the recommendation. HNTB is KDOT's engineering consultant on this project. Greg?
Thanks, Ryan. As Ryan indicated, subsequent to the MPO meeting back in February and then later city and county commission meetings in March, the project team took a step back And with consideration of safety, access, traffic flow, and coordination with the local partners, we developed four alternatives for nearest term solutions that we further evaluated. As you can see up here, alternative number one was the do nothing, no build, essentially as is, which really established the baseline out there in terms of what we could expect when the east leg opens up. Alternative two being a traffic signal at this location. Alternative three being a right in, right out, which means only right turns from K10 and from East 1200 Road will be allowed, no throughs on East 1200 or no left turns in either direction. And then the fourth alternative being the one that Ryan had indicated was the original recommendation, the closure of East 1200 and K10 with a traffic signal at County Road 458 and US 59. The analysis that we did, engineering, traffic operations, yielded the following results. First of all of the alternatives that were looked at addressed the EMS response times, which you knew was a concern, either because it did not impede or because features were built into each solution which would address the EMS response time to Southwest Douglas County in this area. Similarly, traffic operations, which really is a measure of delay, were not significantly impacted by either one of these, any of these alternatives at this location, as well as K10, 27th Street, Iowa and 31st, County Road 458 and 59. So as it relates to delay and how long people sit at an intersection, there wasn't that much difference between the four alternatives. The impacts of travel time and travel distance, again, were considered minimal between the four alternatives. We know that, different people have different ways of going, but when you just kind of looked at the different alternatives and how a typical trip might be altered, the change in distance, the change in times were considered minimal. The largest differentiator of the analysis was the safety between the alternatives. And what we did is looked at the combined impact of each of these alternatives within the region here that involved the K10 27th Street intersection, this intersection, US 59, K10, 458 and 59. How did each of these affect safety? And the results from that was a 78% increase in predicted total crashes for the do nothing alternative. The alternative number two, which was a signal, actually was a higher increase in total crashes relative to the signal, but it should be noted that even though there is a predicted increase in total crashes, it is anticipated that severe crashes, which would be your angled T-bone, would be reduced. With alternative number three, a 15% decrease as compared to the do nothing. So it actually, the predicted crashes are less than what you had with the do nothing. And then with the fourth alternative, a 26% decrease in predicted total crashes. So this really is just kind of a high level overview of the analysis, engineering and operations. But to be responsive as well as responsible as it relates to what the engineering tells us, there is another component, which is the public comment and the sentiment from the public in terms of how they feel about these alternatives. With the public open house and online, the public was afforded two opportunities to provide public comment. The public open house was conducted on June the 1st, and the online survey was conducted over a time of June 2nd to June 17th. And through these surveys, this is an opportunity for us to ask for the respondents their thoughts regarding the alternatives that had been presented. It should be noted, though, that as part of the survey that this is not a statistically valid survey. Actually, it's what you would call a self-selected survey. And what we mean by that is that people have to choose to take the survey. People were not selected based on meeting certain demographics. A person chose either to respond to the survey at the public open house, or they chose to go online and fill out the survey. I think it's worthy of note, though, that we feel like We had good geographic representation. There was 23 zip codes that were represented as part of the survey. There's about a 50-50 split of male-female respondents, and there was a solid distribution of various age groups as well. The survey is just a tool for our team to gather feedback and have an understanding of what's important to those who responded. It should also be noted that, the report did come out shortly after the survey had been conducted at a public open house and online, but we've been monitoring the survey since then, and the trends that we saw initially that were part of the report that the commissions received have basically stayed the same as the survey has continued. They really haven't changed. And there are about 600 people, actually there are 600 people who have responded to the survey, so a very good response to the survey. What did we take away from the public comments? They were asked several questions, and the first question that they were asked is to rank each of the alternatives according to their preference, 1 being the most preferred and 4 being the least preferred. The one thing that we really took away from the public comment, generally speaking, is the public desires access. Some form of access be maintained at this location. I mean, that's the one thing that we took away from the results that we got. The highest ranked alternative was alternative 2, which was the signal, and closely followed by alternative 1, do nothing. The lowest ranked alternative was alternative 4, closure, preceded by alternative 3, the right in, right out. Again, these are rankings just to give us an idea of what the people are thinking. It's not a vote, but it is just to give us some idea of, what is the preference. Another thing that we took away from the response, because we also asked what is the primary factor that affects your decision about what you prefer. Safety and access were nearly equally split, with safety slightly being ahead, that there was more emphasis put on safety than access. And with that in mind, I would just offer that those who did favor closure as their preferred cited safety as their top priority as to why they picked that. It's evident from all of the comments that we got, though, from those who filled it out, that there is no one alternative that is going to satisfy all users. Every user does have their preference. Some are higher than others, but there is not one that's going to satisfy all the people that use this intersection, which we would anticipate to be the case. So, having done the analysis and having listened to what the public had to say, the project team balanced, our job was to look at what we got from the public and the analysis, and balancing that, what do we believe was the right path to move forward that addressed access, but also addressed safety. In summary, I would say that alternative 1, the do nothing, no build, it maintains full access, but does not address safety concerns. You still have all movements that are allowed there without any real control other than stop signs on East 1200. Alternative 4, which was the closure of K10 and East 1200 with the traffic signal, provides no direct access to K10 at this location, but it does improve the overall corridor safety when you look at everything relative to K10 27th all the way through to 59 and down to 458. Alternative 2, which is the traffic signal, again, it provides full access at the intersection, but total crashes are predicted to increase with that one. And alternative 3, the right in, right out, provides partial access, so it does maintain access, it does not close all access here, and it does reduce predicted angle, T-bone, the severe crashes, and total crashes. KDOT's recommendation, based on the analysis of all of this information, was to move forward with a right in, right out. As Ryan mentioned earlier, the initial consideration for this location was closure of the intersection. And there were a number of factors that went into that, primarily safety being one, and also that it was consistent with the long-term solution to close access at this location. However, as we heard from the public in February, their desire to maintain access, that being coupled with the uncertainty of when the west leg improvements would be implemented in terms of 4-lane and access being addressed at Wakarusa as well in connection on the 458, we took a step back and further evaluated these alternatives. And based on the analysis and the public comment for access, KDOT believes that the best solution moving forward, which balances safety and balances the desire for access, is the right-in, right-out, because it does still maintain some access and it provides the safest solution among the options that still does provide some access at this location. So a little bit more detail about the right-in, right-out. Again, with that recommendations, just a summary here that it does reduce predicted crashes, angle T-bone, provides partial access. It does minimize impact to traffic flow on K10 or nearby intersections. It is a lower cost alternative, which is different from the one that was presented at the public open house that would be under $70,000. And it would have the ability to be implemented concurrent with opening of the K10 East Leg SLT. So a little bit of, I guess, detail about the right-in, right-out. As I mentioned, this is not the one that was presented at the public open house. And the one that was presented at the open house was so that we had apples-to-apples comparison with the other 3 that were being considered. But when we took into consideration access, the desire for access, and safety, a lower cost alternative that allows the department to be able to implement this concurrently with the opening of the east leg. That was why this option was selected as a preferred alternative. And even though it does not provide the same reduction in crashes as the one that was presented at the public open house, which was 15%, it still does have a predicted reduction in crash of 10%. So it's better than the signal, it's better than the do nothing, not as good as the closure, but just marginally less than the one that was presented.
Would the signalization be able to be implemented concurrent with the opening of the east leg?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Yes, it would. So what you see here is at least a visualization of what you could expect here at this location. Essentially with restriping of the existing intersection that's out there to provide the through movements, and then take those left turns, convert those to throughs, take the right turns for your right turns off of K10 in the eastbound and westbound direction. In the islands here, you would have tubular markers and a raised little curb here that basically delineates this area for no left turns or through movements at this location. The details of what this actually is going to look like is a final design detail. This is just a representation of what you can expect out here. But these are such too that for fire, for other emergency response, that the fire trucks, others are able to basically just drive over these and be able to get where they go. It means they'll have to be, maintained, but it does allow them the opportunity to get where they need to go at this location.
And those, are those bolted onto those curves that are kind of, how will you deal with that in the future? I mean,
Well, I don't know that they're bolted.
They're a combination of mastic glue and bolted down. We've got them in a couple locations.
Sir, would you come up here so we can see who's talking?
sorry.
The microphone.
And at the microphone?
Those would be bolted down plus a mastic glue backing that holds it down. We're trying to do this in a way that we don't have to actually do any paving in here. This allows us to do it fairly fast and fairly cheap as far as the building is concerned. And as far as maintaining, if they get damaged, they're fairly easy to remove and replace. And that'd be something we would have to do as they get damaged, if they get damaged. Does that answer the question?
Yes. And I think the other thing that's key with this, not only are the tubular markers here such that it can be driven over, but there is no positive separation between the opposing lanes here, so that, the emergency vehicles do have the ability to make left turns here or go through if they need to be able to respond to things as it relates to emergency.
I just ask, are they rigid enough that a regular vehicle who for some reason chooses to drive through them? Would it damage the car? Are they flexible, or will they actually
I'll
keep
let
a
him answer.
regular vehicle from scooting across the intersection?
They're a flexible delineator where the base is got like a plastic hinge, live hinge, where they can be hit. They'll come up after a few hits or a few runovers, but then after that, we'll have to go in and replace the pieces. It will not physically stop a car that chooses to intentionally drive through them. It will not. And because of the proximity to K-10 traffic, that was actually a concern. You can't have something that isn't crash-worthy being that close to traffic. So,
From a regulatory standpoint, though, to make a move across those would not be the right thing to do.
Sure, sure.
But it doesn't keep them from doing it,
Right,
you know, they are
right.
flexible. Any other questions before moving
I think
on?
it's time for us to talk instead of ask questions.
Yeah, I
That's
just-
what I'm prepared to do.
Yeah, just to follow up, I mean, just so you know, next steps, you know, later this month, the KDOT executive staff, you know, based on the analysis, based on the public comment, based on the feedback we get from the two commissions, executive staff at KDOT will confirm what they're going to move forward and do. And with the intent of this project being let in September so that it can be constructed and in place by the time that the east leg opens up. So at this point, we would entertain any questions that the commission might have. Further
I
questions?
don't really have a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
I'm Jim Flory, I'm on the county commission. This intersection's in my district, and a number of people, both within the city of Lawrence and in the unincorporated areas of Douglas County are in my district. And the overwhelming contact I've had has been supportive. And first of all, let me say I appreciate where we've come. When it was an item that closure was going to occur, and KDOT's willingness to step back and listen to public comment, listen to the commissions, and look at alternatives. I sincerely appreciate that, as do the people in my district. Having looked at everything very carefully, as many of the people in the district have done and contacted me, the overwhelming preference is for the signalization alternative as opposed to the right in, right out. And I understand some safety issues are there, but if you look closely at the analysis, I find that the access or the limited access in the right in, right out does not really vary with the safety. In other words, if you weigh the cost benefit of both, the signalization seems to be not only the preferred, but is publicly preferred, doesn't have limited access, and it's clearly what the people that I've talked to, and I haven't talked to the other commissioners because we can't do that, but definitely from my perspective as the commissioner in that district that the intersection is located in, our preference would be the signalization that was proposed as one of the alternatives. And I think if KDOT is looking for a consensus with the public and with the commissions, that is an alternative that you could very well get a consensus on. But in saying that, I don't detract from what you've done in backing up, looking at the alternatives, and giving us the opportunity to speak. But I feel confident speaking for my constituency that signalization is by far the preferred alternative, realizing this is short term, but we don't know what short term is. And so I appreciate your being here, taking comments, and that's what my district, I feel confident, would overwhelmingly support.
No, we appreciate your feedback.
I had a question, sorry.
No, go ahead.
At Wakarusa, there's a signal already there. Was it gonna stay there?
Will the signal stay at Wakarusa? For now, yes, that is the case. And one of the things that KDOT is looking at right now, will be looking at, and in cooperation with the city, is some modifications at that location as well that would include modifications to the signal, some minimal striping, right now, the signal out there, there's one signal head that, we don't have signal heads that line up over all of the lanes that are out there, which is typically what you would do, so people know if I'm gonna turn left, this is where I need to be. So those are some things that what the department's gonna be looking at, but those improvements won't be able to be implemented until sometime next summer, probably by the time that analysis design is done, the plans are developed.
What I was curious about is if that stretch from Iowa to past the curve, the big curve near the dam, have you looked at the safety statistics if you reduce that speed maybe to 55 miles per hour, if you put in a signal at Castle and keep the one at Wakarusa? Have you looked at that at all, reducing the speeds, what that does?
No, we have not looked at and the one thing I would say about reduction in speed is, you know, there's a number of different reasons why you consider reduction in speed. And typically, you know, there's the greatest, one of the greatest contributors to crashes is variation in speed. And so one of the things that has to be taken into account, and to be able to make a decision about whether or not the right thing to do is to reduce speed, is to really do a speed study. What's the characteristics of how people are driving it? Because what you don't want to do is reduce the speed, and then for those who do obey it, if you have those who don't and you have a variation of speed, then you run the risk that you have variation of speed out there that does contribute to crashes. So
Sure.
that's not something we've looked at, but in order to make a decision like that, that's something that would have to be evaluated and analyzed to determine if that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, because that bridge that goes over 23rd Street or Clinton Parkway, I guess technically is what it's called. You know, I'm uncomfortable driving the maximum speed across that, so that's
bridge
why I
is
bring
that?
up the bridge that's right
Clinton
by
Parkway?
the dam that
Yeah,
goes
Clinton
over
Parkway.
Clinton Parkway. So that's why I mentioned perhaps reducing speed along that whole stretch might be safe, or even up there, because there were accidents up there near the bridge, weren't there?
Yes, that was one location where I think there was some concentration of accidents at that location.
Yeah, the
yes.
last maps I saw, you were trying to reduce that curve there as well.
Surprisingly, a number of the accidents there were what we call fixed object, and a lot of them involved animals, so deer, obviously, but
Yeah.
surprisingly, there was a lot of them that involved deer.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm kind of curious about, is signalizing it and then keeping the one at Wakarusa and then just reducing speed along
Good.
that stretch until you're ready to do 4 lanes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, mine's pretty simple. In looking at all this and understanding the temporary nature of whatever the solution that we have at Castle and K10, I too would also support the signalization at that point. I think it's the right move to do, especially in light of the fact the county and the city is going to pick up. It sounds like we're going to be picking up some big dollars on the area at Wakarusa Drive, and be able to you know, look at a different design maybe there of some kind, and you know, maybe a connection to both the south and the north along with the county. Maybe we can do that. But I for one would look at the $70,000 to $170,000 signalization at that point, even based on the figures that you've given us for damage. I do want you to know, I do appreciate the fact that KDOT did, as Chairman of the County Commission said, coming back and making a change to just out and out closure. You know, if that's where we're at, that's it. This is my one time to be able to say, I believe that we would be better served as a community in Lawrence, Kansas, to have signalization there. I too had written down the possibility of reduced speed. I didn't realize that you have to do a speed study, and kind of hard to do without, you know, the additional lanes coming down through there from the east. But I think it's something to consider at that point also. Okay.
A question.
Mhm.
In comparing this road to Highway 59 that goes south of the SLT,
Mhm.
you've got intersections open there, and you've got also varied speed, you know, 55 to 70, 70 to 55 as you come into town. How is that different than doing signals where we want to have them done at?
It's a good question. You know, and the two facilities really are, they're different in terms of when you come to this location, how the driver might perceive these two highways. Whereas US 59, that is a 4-lane freeway from Ottawa up to a point, you know that as you near K10, you know, you start to come to at-grade intersections and your speed is slowing, and you're coming to an interchange where you have currently there's a signal on the eastbound direction, but before, you've got a signalized intersection there, and US 59 ultimately goes through town. I mean, you're going through town, you're gonna be on a city street. So for the people who are on US 59, I mean, it serves a different function as it comes into the city of Lawrence. Whereas SLT, K10, especially now with the completion of the east leg of the SLT and the designation of K10 now, your primary route is you're coming into the east part of Lawrence, you're not unimpeded. I mean, you're staying on K10 and you're going to Iowa, and ultimately you're connecting to the west leg and you're going on then to the turnpike. So there's a different perception of what this highway serves. I mean, you have people that could be getting on back in Missouri somewhere that have been on freeway all the way. I mean, they come in I-70, they drop down on 470, they go to 435, they get on K10, they're on freeway, and then you get to a point you don't expect to have accurate intersections. Now, it is true that until the west leg is upgraded, you have a 2-lane facility out here with 2 accurate intersections on it right now. But the fact is that you have people that are on this highway that are driving 70 miles per hour, and that's where there's a difference between a signal on 59 and a signal on K10, that as people are approaching, they know they're coming into a different part of the facility, they're slowing down going into town, whereas people on K10, whether they're inattentive or not, you run more of a risk of somebody who's doing 70 that doesn't slow down, that they end up coming to an accurate intersection, and you could end up with more rear-end accidents. So it's a different facility type, even though it still is a 2-lane highway until it gets upgraded. So that's the distinction, I think, that we see between the two that is there that causes more concern in terms of doing something here versus here and how that might contribute to more accidents and be a less safe situation.
Once it's a 4-lane, I would agree with you.
Yeah, but not.
Comments on expectation, but it's not, and it won't be for who knows how long. And so I think everything, what I would hope we would do was alert them to the expectation that this isn't a freeway all the way around. It is more like coming into a town and going through a town when you have those intersections and that curve that you mentioned and so on. So to the extent that the expectation can be that you're on a freeway, but that's going to change until you get to the turnpike, I would hope that there's signage and methodologies that can be used and reduce speeds to accomplish that until we have a true 4-lane freeway around the southwest part of Lawrence.
The temporary nature of it, I could fully support the signal, but I'm a little leery on the other, just talking to folks, and we don't know when the state's ever gonna be able to get the funding.
Yeah.
On your analysis of the safety of the right in and right out, does that include the effect of non-compliance with the plan?
Non-compliance meaning somebody turning left or?
Going across?
No.
So
It assumes people comply with the law.
I think you might want to rethink that before you do this. Because I'm seriously concerned about safety. And I'm really concerned that people are going to go, I'm not going to do what they're telling me, I'm going to go across. And I think that would be more of a risk than signalization, frankly. But, that's why I favor signals.
What is the, you mentioned the Wakarusa Drive change that's kind of coming, the partnership will have to make that happen. And you said we didn't have a date for it, but that seems like the kind of thing that the city and the county should begin planning for, since we're going to have a local component to it. Is your vision for that, and I'm sorry, I don't remember, but is your vision for that something like Billings where it goes over the future 4-lane, or is it, did we agree to put it under, and you would take
Wakarusa?
the new.
Unfortunately, does the one slide have, yeah, it does. It does, it shows. Let me get back to just so we got something we can go to slide. The actually, is it? I don't think we have a slide that shows it in close enough detail. To answer your question, with the long-term solution, The intersection of Wakarusa and K10 is relocated roughly about a little over a mile to the southeast around the pond that's out there in the wetland area. And it's positioned in such a way that it has minimal impact on the wetlands and the floodplain and the floodway. But then K10 would actually go over Wakarusa, and then Wakarusa would be extended and tied directly into this interchange, but then off of that, there would be an extension that would cross over the Wakarusa River and ultimately provide connection to County Road 58, which is consistent with what's in the long-range transportation plan.
So there wouldn't be a flyover or whatever at the exit itself?
You mean, well, there would be a grade separate, meaning at the exit itself, yeah, there'd be a grade separate interchange where the side road actually goes over K10.
Okay.
K10 would be down and the side road would be over top. So people would exit and entrance at ramps and then go on up to Wakarusa, or they can go south across the road.
we now have a thought
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be, so in other words, that could be done, because it goes over the K10, it could be done well in advance of the actual 4-lane,
It could be.
okay, engineering wise, not financially.
With funding, but there's an environmental process that the department still needs to go through to get clearance for the entire corridor. And at this point, it's not we don't know how long that's going to take, but,
Should just be a couple months.
that will have a bearing on how quickly even another project like that can be done.
Okay. I asked that because I'm just trying to understand the future contour. You just described and I appreciate you doing that, the perspective. We've been talking about this from the perspective of people trying to cross K10, but I appreciate hearing your perspective on people driving through on K10. And I wondered kind of what the road would look like after it's 4 lanes, if it would come down off of Iowa and then go back up over between Castled or 1200 and Wakarusa, and then go back up again over Wakarusa. I'm just trying to understand kind of what but it sounds like it's
What
going
the
to be.
lay of K10 would
Yeah.
be? Yeah,
Mhm.
basically it's down until you get to Wakarusa.
Okay,
And then
and then
it
up
would-
again, okay. And then what, does the decision that you've made on this have any impact on the traffic signalization at 458 and 59?
The right in, right out.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a number of different, there are certain warrants that have to be met to determine signal, crash history, type of traffic, volume. And even if, just because one warrant's met doesn't mean that a signal would go in there. But based on this solution here and what traffic would be diverted, because it's not going to be, with closure, it would be more would get diverted, but with what would be diverted, at this point, it doesn't meet the warrants that KDOT would choose to put a signal in here right now.
Okay.
But it is something that they will continue to monitor according to their statewide practice, such that at whatever point that it might be required based on warrants, that then they would consider to change that at the time. But at this particular time, that's a decision that has not been made to put a signal in there based on the warrants.
okay. Well, I mean, for what it's worth, I don't have the same, I've gotten similar emails and I've gotten similar comments. I don't have the same intensity that I think some of the other commissioners have about this issue. I look at it, I think, and I appreciate it, hearing from you the perspective on the through traffic on K10. However, if the will of the community is to go with the signalization, I could be, I'd be fine with that. I just want to echo kind of what's been said, that, for you guys to come and work with us on this project and partner with us in the conversation, has been, I'm not sure Lawrence deserved that, but after what we put you guys through over the last couple of decades, but thank you for your time and attention on this issue.
So I've gotten the same emails. I certainly understand the impulse to want to signalize this because it makes local flow easier. But I have to say I'm troubled by the idea of designing something and choosing access and expedience over safety. So unless signalization could be done with a decrease in speed and maybe those rumble strip, something across the highway that would really tell people that they're coming up to, they're driving 70 and they better know they're coming up to a stoplight, which, I don't think we should minimize the risk of this being, this is a full-blown highway to folks who don't know the local scene and the expectation of driving it like a highway. I think, I just don't want to underestimate what a shock it's going to be to have a stoplight, which you tried to explain. And so I think I get the local desire for the stoplight. I really do. But it just seems like a dangerous precedent to knowingly choose expediency over safety. So I guess I would be inclined to follow your engineer's suggestion that the right-in, right-out would allow partial access and better safety for folks on the road. But if there was a way to satisfy a lower speed and a safer approach to a stoplight until the 4 lanes go in, I can't imagine that you all are going to do a traffic study and accomplish all of that. So I think I'm on the right-in, right-out safety side.
I just want to echo what a lot of people have said. I really do appreciate you coming to the table and being willing to negotiate. It's a tricky proposition when we're trying to persuade you, and we have no ownership of the road. We're trying to tell you what to do with. So I do appreciate your willingness to listen to the community. And at the end of the day, I think a right-in, right-out is better than we were at on day one. That being said, I think kind of the elephant in the room issue here is the dollars. That ultimately we have an unfunded project. We have no actual idea when this project's going to happen. And as we go by day with a project that has no funding attached to it, the rest of our community has to go through their day. And this is a road that very much affects a lot of people's existence and their livelihood. And so coming up with a solution that allows eventually a freeway option to play out once the money is there, but at the same time takes into note the community around it, I think is where I'm going to lean. And it's hard for me to imagine that the right-in, right-out option is $1 million more than signalization. I'm having a hard time grasping why that is exactly, but if that's an accurate statement, given that this whole situation is based around the fact that we have no money budgeted for the project, I gotta think that a cheaper solution that also happens to match the will of the public is kind of a rare political win. You don't see that very often. Oftentimes what people want is so expensive we can't do it. What people want in this case is actually the cheaper option. And to Commissioner Bowley's point, I think that as we look at this from a safety standpoint, the assumption we're making is that people aren't going to cross because we tell them they shouldn't cross because we've got a pillar right there. On paper it might be safer, but I'd be curious to see how that plays out in real life.
You came for a consensus and you came to Lawrence. I think those two might be mutually exclusive, but I hope our comments are helpful. I think everyone's comment is we appreciate the fact that the full-blown closure was revisited. Now we have some options. I'm troubled by the right-in, right-out. I think it invites problems, the signalization, demand signalization. And as far as I understand Commissioner Thelman's concerned about the shock, but it's a matter of you're going to get shocked there or you're going to get shocked 2 miles down the road because there's another light right there. And so I think KDOT would be well advised to take steps to address this isn't a freeway yet and what steps can be taken. Rumble strips, signage, that there are upcoming intersections, but the one is not going to be any more shocked than they're already going to be shocked at the next intersection where there is a signal. So, again, thank you for hearing our comments.
Absolutely.
Uh, we-
Excuse me, Jim, one other thing, as you take into consideration, you know, the comments that we've made here this evening, will there be quite a bit of weight given to our concerns and what we would like to see proceed?
We will take back the comments that we heard today and, take them to our upper management. I can't really gauge, because we're not the ones actually making the decision, so it's
Right.
hard for us to gauge that, but we will we will pass the comments along that we received today.
Anybody that has written comments, will KDOT still accept those?
Yeah, you're free to email us. I mean, our contact information's out there, so you
Okay.
can feel free to email us.
I think you might have been thinking more about the
From the
public.
public?
Since we didn't actually have a public hearing, and
Sure.
they can still email you, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your feedback and we appreciate your time today.
Yeah,
Thank
we,
you so much.
we truly appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone else for
Yeah,
coming.
yeah, thank you all. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay. Okay, we are getting ready to start the Lawrence City Commission meeting here in a little bit. You're more than welcome to stick around.
I'll pass, thank you.
Okay, see you, Jim. See you later. You bet. In time. Scott, would you do me a favor and would you close that door? Thank you. No, the city commission started meeting at 3 o'clock this afternoon on budget items, and we just had a session with the county commission and KDOT. So now we're on to our regular agenda. Thank you very much. So the first item on the agenda, since we don't have any recognitions or proclamations, is the consent agenda. All matters that are listed on the consent agenda are to be considered under one motion, will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on those items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Are there any items on the consent agenda that a member of the commission would like to have removed for separate consideration? Okay, are there any items on the consent agenda that a member of the public would like to have removed for separate consideration? Okay, hearing none, we need to add to the consent agenda claims to 232 vendors in the amount of $1,983,999.69, and payroll-related payments, the amount of $3,305,223.36 for a grand total $5,289,223.05. With the addition of claims, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made and second to approve the consent agenda with the claims made by Commissioner Larson, second by Commissioner Herbert. Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That passes 5-0. Next item is general public comment, and the public is always allowed to speak on any items or issues that are not scheduled on the agenda after first being recognized by the mayor. As general practice, the commission will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the commission make decisions on items presented during this time. Rather, they will refer the items to staff for follow-up. Individuals are asked to come to the microphone, sign in, and state their name and address. Speakers should address all comments and questions to the commission. Same rules will apply to the regular agenda. Rather than reading it all, I'm trying to figure out a good way of doing this. So is there any general public comment this evening? Any general public comment? Okay, hearing none, we are on to the regular agenda. Again, the same rules apply for comments to be made and making sure that the speakers address all comments and questions to the commission. First item under the regular agenda, and I would ask if you brought a cell phone, if you would silence it, it would help if you were at the microphone not to be disturbed. Is to conduct a public hearing to consider the vacation of a right-of-way described as the easternmost 10 feet of Colorado Street, a right-of-way that abuts lots 13, 14, and 15 of the Olmsted subdivision of the east half of Block 47, also known as 542 Colorado Street. This is submitted by Teener Investments, LLC. Scott, welcome to you and Mrs. Teener.
Good evening.
Good to see you.
Basically, as the mayor has said, Teener Investments has requested the vacation. It's basically 10 foot on the west side of the lot. This is Colorado Street, 6th Street. This is where the pawn shop is. This is that little red A-frame that's out there, and you've got Lawrence Feed Store to the east there, just to give you an idea of where it is. They're going to be making some parking lot improvements. I'm actually paving the parking lot and trying to control the access into one single access. It looks like an auto sales facility will be going in there. It's an 80-foot right-of-way. It's a residential, low-volume street. Typically, we would only get 60, but in the older parts of town, a lot of them are dedicated at 80 feet, so we don't have any problems with this. We've contacted all the utilities. We went through all of our reviews. We've contacted all the owners within 200 feet. We haven't had any comments, so we would recommend at this point that pending the commission opening a public hearing and hearing any comments, that you approve the order of vacation.
Okay. Questions of Chuck? Okay. So did we decide a couple of weeks ago, do we have to have a motion to open the public hearing or not?
I think that you decided it was your prerogative.
Then the public hearing is open. Is there any public comment on this item?
I think it's a great idea.
Scott, if you'd like to come forward. Come forward now and state your name. This is a public hearing. And
I'm Scott Tenor, and I've purchased this lot, and unfortunately, I hate to tell you that the A-frame's probably coming down. Well, it's not probably, it's coming down. And I know it's kind of a landmark for Lawrence. People, everybody knows that, but we plan on investing quite a bit of money. We're going to take and curb the lot. We're going to put asphalt. We're going to build a building on the back of the corner. It's going to be really beautiful. Put some bays underneath it, landscape it really well, put some great landscaping rock up there. Some LED lighting, which has already passed the light pollution test, and it's going to be really a great location. And I think it'll add to the value of all the area right there too. So we hope to get that extra spot, just going to give us a little extra room that we can maneuver around. Because if you look at it, it's just kind of a smaller lot, but we like the location for the traffic. So.
Scott, I appreciate your investment in the community and everything that you're doing. I do have to say one thing. Is the little bitty light bulbs that line that lot remind you of times gone by.
Yeah, well, we may have one last lighting of the lights.
Okay.
And maybe we'll put
I
a
should
keg
come
in the
take a
front.
picture,
who knows?
right?
Before we take the building down, yeah.
Okay, any questions of Scott?
No, I think it's a great infill.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion made and second to close the public hearing, made by Commissioner Herbert, second by Commissioner Boley. All in favor of closing the public hearing, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Any questions, comments about the item? Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the vacation of the right-of-way.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made and second to approve the vacation of the right-of-way. Is made by Commissioner Herbert, second by Vice Mayor Soden. All in favor of that motion, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Best of luck. Thank you. Thanks. Next item is conduct a public hearing to consider the vacation of right-of-way described as the area designated as frontage road. This is 50 feet north of the property line of Lot 1 of Commerce Park East, 2301 Ponderosa.
Again, this is another parking lot expansion. This is McConnell Tractor. Can't think of what that is right now. But anyway, McConnell Tractor's to the east. The lot here, there used to be a lot more right-of-way along 23rd Street for potentially a frontage road. As you can see, the two adjacent tracks and several of the tracks have basically vacated that, or the city has vacated it, and they're using those areas. This section hasn't been vacated, so again, we've submitted it to all the utilities, we've reviewed it. There has been no comments from the neighbors within 200 feet. I guess pending your opening the public hearing and hearing any comments, the staff would recommend approval of this order of vacation.
Okay. Questions of Chuck? The applicant's not here this evening?
I do not think so.
Okay.
Nope.
The owner is represented by the architect. We hope Alan's okay.
Yeah, I think, probably. Just making a point. Any other questions of Chuck? Okay, thanks, Chuck.
Yep.
At this time, we open the public hearing. Is there any public comment on this vacation? KT, I guess you would be representing the public this evening. Okay. No other public comment? I entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion made and second to close the public hearing, made by Commissioner Herbert, second by Commissioner Larson. All in favor of closing the public hearing, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Any other questions or comments about the vacation? Entertain a motion to approve the vacation of the right-of-way.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve the vacation of right-of-way, made by Vice Mayor Soden, second by Commissioner Boley. All in favor of that motion, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That item passes 5-0. Next item is conduct a public hearing and consider authorizing the mayor to execute a certificate enabling Presbyterian Manor to utilize healthcare facility revenue bond proceeds issued by the city of Wichita at the Lawrence facility. Excuse me a second, Diane. Sir, I'm sorry, you missed your item. Okay.
It's nice to know that you're okay.
That's right. Diane.
Good evening, Mayor Commissioners. This item is authorizing a certificate for expenditure of healthcare facility revenue bond proceeds here in the city of Lawrence. From time to time, the city of Wichita has issued these bonds on behalf of Presbyterian Manor that has several locations in several communities in the state of Kansas. And in order to make efficiencies and save costs with these bond issuances, it has been done under that City of Wichita umbrella. And so in order for this to happen again and for proceeds to be expended here at the Lawrence facility, which they're planning to expend on certain capital improvements and renovations to the facility here, the city has to have this certificate signed that authorizes these expenses within our city. Every other city that has a Presbyterian Manor that is using these bonds has to do the same thing. So we have done this in the past, and we would recommend approval of this, and you will need to hold a public hearing.
Okay,
Be happy to answer any questions.
okay, questions of Diane? Okay, these are healthcare facilities revenue bonds.
And they are a type of industrial revenue bond, but they're
Okay.
only available for healthcare facilities.
Okay, that was gonna be my question, what kind of bonds it? Right.
Yes,
Okay,
tax exempt.
right.
Not at all.
It's not gonna show up on a spreadsheet somewhere with our name hooked to it.
No, it does at the City of Wichita, but not at the City of Lawrence.
Just checking. Okay, other questions? Okay, thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Public comment.
Just lost our.
Yeah, KT left. Okay, I guess we're back to the item then.
Public hearing?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment on this item?
Here she comes.
KT, are you here to speak on this item?
Yes, I'm sorry, I just told him to come on in, his attorney.
They're here?
No,
No, this is on, this is on the bonds.
I apologize.
No, you don't have anything. Is there any public comment on the bond item for the city of Wichita? No. I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion made second to close the public hearing, made by Commissioner Herbert, second by Commissioner Larson. All in favor of that motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Now, we're back to the item at hand, and that is to authorize the mayor to execute a certificate enabling Presbyterian Manor to utilize the healthcare revenue bonds and from the city of Wichita at the Lawrence Presbyterian Manor, okay? I'd entertain that motion to authorize the mayor to execute the certificate.
So moved.
Motion made and second for the authorization, made by Commissioner Boley, second by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor of that motion, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Next item is to conduct a public hearing regarding 1231 Pennsylvania. Consider adopting resolution number 7166, declaring the house an accessory structure located on the property to be dangerous or unsafe, and ordering the property owner to commence and complete substantial repairs to the structure or to remove the structures by August 22nd, 2016. Kurt?
Good evening, Kurt Schroeder, Planning and Development Services. On May 3rd, you set tonight as a public hearing to consider condemnation as dangerous and unsafe the vacant house and the large accessory building at 1231 Pennsylvania. As you all recall, this has been before you now for about 14 months. The first public hearing on this was April of 2015. Came back to you again for review in August of 2015, again in December of 2015, and then on May 3rd, you again reviewed conditions at the property. On the advice of our legal counsel, we went ahead and established a whole new hearing date on May 3rd, and so we're kind of starting this process over again. Basically, there's been no change to the conditions of the building. Just as you've seen the pictures before, floors are collapsing, foundation is a very bad repair, the roof structure is leaking, has been leaking badly for years. A lot of the structural elements of the roof are in very bad shape. So the house itself is in very bad condition. and as is the accessory building. To our knowledge, there has been no attempts to repair the structure in this last 14 months. We have no building permits on file for that. Also, as you recall, Ms. Shelley Wakeman, Attorney Shelley Wakeman, has been assisting the owner on this, and she has also, they've been reaching out, trying to possibly sell the property in either as-is condition or maybe demolish it and sell the property. Last I spoke with her, there was no contracts for sale of the property at this point, although they had been working with the realtor on this issue. So the premise has been, continued to be cleaned up. You're not taking any action on the premise conditions tonight. It's nearly cleaned up at this point. There is a fence around the property. Every time we've been by there, it's been kind of kept secured, maintained, closed, unless Mr. Kimball or someone else was there working on the property or the premise. So we are recommending you adopt this new resolution tonight, 7166. It would basically give the owner a final 60 days to resolve this issue, to either repair it or start demolition of the property. And if he failed to do so, then staff would take action to receive bids and do that, and then assess that cost of cleanup to the property. So with that, I'd be glad to take any questions.
Kurt, I had somebody approach me before the meeting that we have with the Douglas County Commission about possibly, and some arrangement to be made with the current owner of the property about a financial arrangement, some kind of a loan or something like that. And I didn't know.
I don't know the details of that. I know Ms. Wakeman has told me in the past that I think the same person.
Well, the person came to me before the meeting and said that they're trying to do that.
Discussing some things with them. So, but she could speak to that.
Okay. Questions of Kurt?
That was my question. Is it the premises now are considered cleaned up enough and now we're just looking at the structure?
You took an action on May 3rd that basically gave him till July 22nd to finish the cleanup of the premise. He's very close to that.
Okay.
He is cleaning out some of the house and the accessory building, so some stuff comes back out and leaves the property, but it's very close to being cleaned.
So it's just good to hear that there has been progress.
Yes, and I know he had at least one other dumpster out there in the past month or so and filled it and had it removed and continues to work on the premise conditions.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions of Kurt? Okay, thanks, Kurt. This time I will open the public hearing. So is there any public comment?
Good evening, I'm Shelley Wakeman. I'm here for Mr. Kimball tonight. For matters of clarification, the only thing that's before you tonight is the issue of the structure and the accessory building and whether or not an additional 60-day time frame is reasonable in this case. The yard is almost cleaned up, but we do have another 30 days or so on that. And that progress will continue over the next few weeks until completion. So I guess tonight I would just say a couple of things about Mr. Kimball. One is I appreciate greatly the concern this community has for him and all of the help that's been offered to him. However, this is a very personal issue for the homeowner, and he is going to do what is in the best interest of him, and he is going to get it done as soon as he possibly can. He's a private person, and so a lot of the well-meaning interventions that have been offered sometimes just aren't what his plan for the property is. So I just say that so that the commission and so that the public that's interested in this matter can respect his privacy on some level. Obviously, he's put this in the public domain by the condition of the structure, and we're happy to address that and how we're going to make sure that the city's regulations are followed here. So having said that, The resolution before you tonight would give until August 22nd to have the two structures repaired or demolished. I think that in discussions we've had with area remodelers, builders, 90 days is more likely a scenario to get permits filed, and that includes a demolition permit if that is the route that we take. So I would ask till September, but that's certainly up to you. And beyond that, that's kind of where we are. We're at the stage of finalizing plans to either demolish, to sell, or to rehab. And we've reached out to people in each of those fields to try to come to a decision that will make the most sense for him going forward and where he'll live next. Do you have questions for me?
So the only question that I would have, okay, if we go ahead and agree to the 90 days, one or the other will happen, you believe in that time? Either
That's our
the-
goal.
I'm
Yes.
sorry?
That's our goal, to get this completed within that time frame. Now, if we get a demolition permit in the next 30 days, we would be able to my belief, and in talking to demolition people, is we could get it done in 90 days.
Right.
We could get the lot cleared, and then your interest in it would end. Whether he sells it or not doesn't matter to you any longer. If we offer it for sale as is, and if that's the decision, we can reach that decision very quickly and get it on the market. We've got a contract with a realtor that we're considering. We've met with him, and we'll take that path if selling as is, or even after we demolish. But by then you won't care because it'll be cleaned up. And then finally, the remodeling prospect is more remote of a likelihood at this point. It's financially a completely different animal, and whether or not the homeowner wishes to stay on that piece of ground is really what he's deciding right now.
Shelley, I'm convinced of one thing is, as I work with my colleagues here, the last thing that we ever want to do anytime is remove somebody's home. And, be able to give them that flexibility. But, here again, understand, we have, regulations that we all
Right.
have to follow. So, it's important that we have that understanding that if we're at that point where the decision is to be made over the next 90 days, I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that we are at that point.
We are.
Okay. Questions, Michelle?
Scott, how long would it take to get a demolition permit?
Once submitted, there's a 30-day notice period in the newspaper, unless it's an emergency situation. I think the code official has the ability to grant that quicker than that.
That was going to be my question. Is there a way that we can help Ms. Wakeman and Mr. Kimball on our end with being able to expedite the process?
Yeah, I believe there is. The important parts of the demolition are to make sure utilities are cut off and safe to do the actual work.
Yeah, that house hasn't had utilities for quite some time, correct?
Not sure if it has electric.
It doesn't have utilities now.
Is that
They
accurate?
would still need to have the sewer capped and sealed and the gas lines properly sealed and cut off.
Okay.
That takes 2 or 3 weeks sometimes.
Okay.
But here again, and understand, and I think that we're all probably of the belief we want to help any way we can, whether it be to expedite, a demolition permit, a building permit, or, any assistance that we can provide. So,
Okay, I appreciate that.
okay. Any other questions for Shelley then? Okay. Don't go away.
Thank you.
Other public comment? Any other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Katie Walsh from the East Lawrence Neighborhood Association. And we would like whatever Leon wants. And I think we fall into the category of the well-meaning people offering help and maybe getting in the way. And so we would support this 90-day extension if that helps. And we are so grateful to all of you and to the city staff and to Ms. Wakeman, who's working pro bono, and Leon and the whole team for just patiently working on this for so long and so carefully. It is really buttoned up. I know Joe Bickford went over and helped button it up a little bit more this past week, so thank you.
Thanks, KT. Okay, other public comment? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made and second to close the public hearing, made by Vice Mayor Soden, second by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor of that motion, aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. The item before us is to adopt resolution number 7166 on the declaration of the house and the accessory structure unit at 1231 Pennsylvania to be dangerous or unsafe. We have a request that this item be taken out to, I'm going to guess, September 22nd. And that I would suggest, if we're going to do that, as suggested and questioned by Commissioner Herbert, that if the decision is made to take down, if there's a way that we can help with the expediting of the permit, I think that that would be wise, only after all of those items are met, as outlined by Kurt. So any help that we can be on this, I think would be fine, but I think that this is probably a smart deal since Shelley has told us that this is the decision time they're going through right now. Okay? So if it's...
I guess I'd just like to say thanks to Kurt and staff. I really appreciate the care with which you've handled this. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I would entertain a motion then to adopt resolution number 7166 with the item to complete the substantial repairs to the structure or to remove the structures by September 22nd, 2016 at 1231 Pennsylvania. Also, any help that we can be in expediting any permits, I think would be appreciated by everyone, okay? Entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second to adopt resolution number 7166 was made by Commissioner Herbert, second by Commissioner Boley. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Shelley, thank you, and Leonard, thank you. Future agenda items. What about next week?
Yeah, actually, the meeting is canceled, it's not part of the schedule any longer. But if you have anxiety, you know, when you're sitting around next Tuesday, we have a complete library of previous meetings on our website. Feel free to dive in and, you know, satisfy that anxiety. The bicycle transportation and Lauren's budget presentation July 5th. The budget work session will be on July 12th. And that will be when the manager's recommendation comes out. And also the commission meeting will be commission items, agenda, consent items only. So that's it.
So July 5th is our normal time of 5:45.
Yes.
Yeah. First and third.
Okay. So, any questions about future agendas? Items.
Yeah. Kind of put together a meeting quickly, kind of a community conversation for Thursday morning here in this room on the topic of Fuel Up for Summer. It's the lunch program, free lunch program. So I'm a volunteer with the Master Food Volunteers at the Extension Service. This came up at our meeting, and we just thought we'd call some folks, invite them to come in. I'd like to get this on our calendar if we could. But the idea is that we'll have a short meeting to learn about the program from the folks who are putting it on, and then go have lunch at Hillcrest School at 11:30. For adults, it's $3.45.
Kids.
10:30 Thursday morning. Be right here.
You know, we also hope to maybe cover a little bit about how we can maybe expand the program to other parts of Lawrence. It seems to be concentrated in some areas. So the opportunity to make it more community-wide.
There'll be minutes of this meeting in case can't make it. Are there minutes to this meeting if we can't make it? Oh, I guess we got TV.
Non-meeting formal,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a community conversation.
You'll give us a report back.
We'll do it.
Okay, there we go.
You can join us for lunch, Hillcrest. We need to get the lunch at Hillcrest on too, okay?
Oh, yeah, come on.
Just a quickie, Katie Walsh. This is a fabulous program, and I know we need to get the word out to more and more families. There's also a misperception we found at New York Elementary that you have to be a Boys and Girls Club member to get the food, and of course that's not true at all. And so I won't be able to be there, but if you would stress, it's open to everyone. So thank you.
Could we have your name for the?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Katie Walsh.
Thank you. Okay, any other commission items?
Yeah, I'm going to be gone July 5th.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'll be out of the area, so I'll be watching though. From the beach.
I hope so, because it appears our ratings are down.
Yeah, it is. So you'll have me at least.
Sustainability Action Network.
I know.
Be here and
I'm really
want to make sure that you get
disappointed
Any other
to miss
commission
it.
I'll just say that since we don't have a meeting next week, we won't meet again until after the 4th, so just tell people to be safe.
Be safe, absolutely.
Count your fingers before and after.
I did visit with the chief. Let's monitor rainfall between now and then too.
No kidding.
It is drying out quick. So anyway, but yeah, everybody have a safe, happy 4th of July. City managers report.
Just a couple things. The city was nominated in several of the Best Lawrence categories. Apparently they had quite a turnout for that event. Just report on the number ones. No surprise here. The unsung hero was the Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical Department. And the number one best park was South Park. And I have to tell you, when we first came to town, we were so impressed with that park being right down in the downtown area and how pretty it is. For May 2016 monthly building reports, we had value additions to the community, almost $20 million, pretty active month. The aviation youth camp, the 5th camp was held, and we had kids attend, 26 kids. 15 to 20 minute flights over the community for all the kids, which I'm sure they really enjoyed. Unfortunately, I've dealt with this character before, the Emerald Ash Borer. It started in the Detroit metropolitan area, it followed me to Iowa City, and now it's followed me right here in Lawrence. And it costs a lot of money.
Did you track them in?
What's that?
Did you track them in?
Rental licensing statement. I just want to make the comment at the end of this report. This is regards Senate Bill 366, and it states, because the city's residential rental property code does not appear to be in conflict with the terms of Senate Bill 366, the city does not anticipate amending its residential property code at this time. And hopefully others out in the public agree with our interpretation here. I'm going to start sending you some articles that I think are appropriate and apropos to different discussions that we have. And so you had 2 articles that I put in the packet this time. One was regarding the but-for test. And I think that was a really nice summary of how gap financing analysis works and how important that is in determining whether a project is eligible for incentives. I thought that was a good article, and I hope you get some benefit out of that. The other one is improving economic outcomes for residents in mixed income developments. Something I follow pretty regularly is the Urban Land Institute, and it really informs you on a lot of issues across this country. And so I think that's a pretty good story about how mixing incomes in different mixed-use buildings and the results and what they're trying to study now and test to determine what the impact is on the people that live in those developments. So hopefully you'll get some benefit out of those. And finally, the announcement of the grant for the completion of the Lawrence Loop out at Rock Chalk Park. I think that's a north of $100,000 grant from the Sunflower Foundation. That was nice to receive that as well. So those are the reports.
Questions of the city manager on the report? Very good report. We'll question you about the Emerald Ash Borer, though. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure it's in the budget somewhere?
It is.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay, any calendar items anybody has? Anything that we need to add? Well,
Just
the item.
two things, 10:30 here and 11:30 at Hillcrest School.
Okay.
We'll send out a special notice on that because it'll be happen by the time we send out
Yeah.
any other agendas.
Okay. So any other things to add to the calendar? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn, made by Commissioner Larson, seconded by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor of that motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all. Okay.